Hello, and welcome to the Hypno Travelers on the Magical Psyche Highway podcast. That's right. Your host and tour guide is Scott Prevett, a healer, hypnotist, and a magician. And your bus driver is Jason Gobelli, also a hypnotist, an entrepreneur, and a spiritual guide. Disclaimer, neither Jason, Scott, or any of our guests here today are licensed professional psychologists or psychiatrists. So please don't make any changes to any medication or treatments that you are currently on based on the conversation that you hear here today. Just hop on the bus and enjoy the ride. Trip with us on the Inner Revelation bus. That's right.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Jason, and welcome back to the Hypno Travelers on the Magical Psyche Highway. And we are excited today because we got a wonderful guest that we've been looking forward to interviewing, don't we, Scott?
Heck yeah, we've got the great Lori Hammond.
That's right, Lori. Welcome to the show, Lori. How are you?
I am well. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Oh, the honor is all ours, Lori. We're excited to have you, and we're going to start right off with the questions. So, who are you and what do you do?
Okay, well, that could be answered any number of ways. So I'll go down the hypnotherapist path. I don't actually call myself a hypnotherapist usually out loud on something that's recorded. I'm a professional hypnotist, and I started about 7 years ago. Really, about 8 years ago, I started listening to a podcast. Podcasts were brand new, and I was searching for interesting podcasts, and I found one on hypnosis. And I grew up being told that hypnosis was of the devil, that hypnosis was mind control, and that you should stay far away from hypnosis. And I was in a place where I was desperate enough for help in my own life that I was willing to turn to the dark side to get help, not realizing that it's not the dark side. And I started listening to Mike Mandel and Chris Thompson's podcasts. And there were so many moments when I was listening to their podcast and I was thinking, no, it doesn't work this well. It can't be this easy. These guys are so silly. And then I actually I started digging a little bit deeper, started learning more about hypnosis. And I signed up for Mike and Chris's Hypnosis Academy, and that just absolutely changed my life. And I went to train with them. So I took the online academy first, which is a deep dive into hypnosis. And then I went and trained with them in Toronto and got to practice all the things that I was so scared to practice, because there's still this little part of me that thought it was magical and that you had to have special powers to accomplish it. So going to Toronto with them and actually practicing in person.
Bless you.
Hopefully I made that easy to edit.
Okay.
And if you leave it in, that's fine too.
It doesn't matter.
So being in Toronto and getting to practice these tools in real time and being on the receiving end and being able to experience them in real time was deeply transformational. So I started hypnosis for help with my weight. I had just been desperately struggling with my weight since probably since puberty or since my first child was born, which was shortly after puberty for me. I was a very young mom. And hypnosis did give me the tools to help with my weight, but it didn't click into place for me for a while. But what it did is it eradicated lifelong depression for me. Going from a place of just feeling dark and hopeless about life and about myself and about my experiences to a place of feeling hopeful and empowered and equipped to move through life from a place of joy and not a place of struggling all the time. And that transformation is what caused me to decide to become a professional hypnotist. So hopefully that kind of gives you a nutshell overview, and I'm happy to dive deeper into anything that sparks curiosity.
Well, I got a question for you. When was it that you had that aha moment that this is going to work for me and I'm going to be able to help people? When was that?
That's a great question. And I in hindsight, I don't know that there was an aha moment. It was kind of a metamorphosis. So I had been asking myself, this is pre-pandemic, and all my kids were grown. I lived in a house by myself. I could kind of do whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, with whomever I wanted, except for I was a hairstylist. And in order to make money and to make a living, I had to be behind the chair. I had to have my hands in someone's hair. And so I'm listening. The first podcast that got me started was Tim Ferriss's podcast. And he talks about how the quality of your questions determines the quality of your life. And so I started asking myself, how can I make a good living and not have to trade time for money, not have to be behind the chair to make money? And so that question was already going on in the back of my mind, and I was looking for all of these answers. And at the same time, I started learning hypnosis. And when I started realizing how transformative it is, and I started understanding that I can do this, you don't have to actually have real superpowers, I started thinking, what if this is a solution I'm looking for? And this is before many people knew about Zoom. People were super freaked out by Zoom because it's pre-pandemic. But I started asking myself, what if this could work in a group? Because part of what I was asking myself is, how can I work from anywhere in the world? I wanted to travel. And I thought, what if I could do this over Zoom? And what if I could do it in a group context and it still transforms lives? I'm just asking these what if questions. And since then, I've proven all these things, and we can talk about that later. But Jason, I think that it was a really slow metamorphosis of me going from a place of just slowly realizing I'm not depressed Lori anymore, slowly realizing these tools work, even though I hadn't really been in a traditional hypnotherapy session. Learning these tools had transformed my life enough that I thought, okay, I want to give these tools to others and transform their life. And I started doing experiments to see if it could work in a group, if it could work over Zoom, etc. Does that answer your question? That's kind of a long roundabout way to answer the question.
Absolutely, and it sparks another. So long before you were ever a hypnotist and went down this field, you were behind the chair doing hair. So you have in you an inherent nature to help others feel better about themselves. So where does that come from, and what is that like?
Okay, so if I were to even back up before I was a hairstylist, I was a stay-home mom. So I stayed home with my kids for the first 15 years, and was married for 15 years and divorced at 15 years. So that's when I went into the workforce. So I was a stay-home mom before then, and I homeschooled my kids. And I'm just the kind of person who geeks out about learning. I want to know, like, how does the brain work? How do we learn new information? How do we improve our lives? And a lot of this came from a place of feeling like I was broken Lori. And I had been in and out of therapy my whole life. It had not helped me. It had actually made me feel more broken. But I was always reading self-help books and always geeking out about how to change myself and how to help my kids and help my kids get good educations, which are all super smart women now. But as a hairstylist, I was in a very prestigious large salon that was a teaching salon, and I actually had the opportunity to teach sometimes. So my heart for teaching came in, and I realized I was actually afraid to become a hairstylist because this might surprise you, I am a hardcore introvert. I love being alone, and I love geeking out about my own thing. And when I am in conversation with people, I like to be in like a deep conversation. I don't like talking about the weather or being in large settings where lots of people are talking. And so I was afraid to become a hairstylist because I thought that I wouldn't like the social aspect. And what I discovered is I actually love being one-on-one with my client. And like, we would talk about deep stuff. We would talk about like important things that really matter, where other hairstylists enjoy talking about the weather, about whatever's on TV right now. My clients and I are talking about like their past trauma, and just speaking to them and having that connection was so beautiful that it became a natural transition for me to move into the role of hypnotherapist. It actually felt like I was already doing a lot of that as a hairstylist.
So to me, it sounds like you were never really broken, Lori. You just had a limited belief as to who you really were.
You are exactly right, Jason. I and that is such a huge part of this process is it's an identity level shift. When a person experiences hypnosis, it doesn't just put a band-aid. And this is what I thought hypnosis was. I thought, okay, this hypnosis is gonna like cover over, it's gonna like blanket over the part of me that is wants to overeat, or the part of me that is struggling, and it's going to let me take the hypnotist suggestions and act a different way. And what I've discovered with hypnotherapy is what actually happens is an identity level transformation where a person steps out of the identity of being an overeater, or steps out of the identity of being a chubby person, or steps out of the identity of being a smoker and steps into a new identity of being naturally fit, or being a fresh air breather, or whatever it is. And I have been monologuing so long that I forgot your original question.
No, that's okay. You're no longer broken, Lori.
Yes. So a huge part of what happened was me realizing that I don't have to be in this identity anymore. I don't have to identify as broken Lori anymore. And that took a little bit of time. That's a big deal because I was so deeply ingrained in the idea of my brokenness because of so many things that had happened in my past, et cetera, that for me and it kind of happened with the question, like, what if I'm not broken? What if I can actually be the person who sets an example of healing for others and shows others how to heal? And changing on that identity level I don't even think it was an identity level change as much as it was an identity level acknowledgement.
So you've homeschooled your kids and things like this. So
Yes.
when you change on your path, does it change them as well?
Oh, wow. Yes and no. My kids were all adults by the time I learned hypnosis, and they're all independent women. One of them is married with 2 kids. One of them is a thriving career woman with 1 kid, and one of them is she manages at a bank, and she's still single. But they're all thriving in their own life. And the stage at which I learned these tools was the stage at which my kids were done hearing from me. So we still have conversations, and they're open to hearing some of it, but they are familiar enough with NLP and hypnosis that if I start to say something NLP or hypnosis-y, they're like, Mom, don't try to NLP me, so they're smart enough that they know. And it's interesting because it's just become my vocabulary. A huge part of what I've learned is just a new way to speak. And so a lot of times I'm just speaking the way I speak, and my kids are like, I get it. So it has, and they've sent friends to me. It has given them transformation. I think them just seeing me work on myself has helped equip them to step into the realization that they can experience an identity level shift for themselves in their own way.
So that said, are you continuing your identity level shift today?
Oh my goodness. I will be continuing my identity level shift until I'm done being on this earth. And in a way, we think that we want to arrive. We think that we want to get to a place of like, okay, now I'm done. I've got it. But really, I think that would be so boring. So the fact that there's always a next level available is really beautiful to me. And there's this balance between being content with where I am and who I am right now, and realizing that it can keep getting better is kind of where I am at this stage in the game.
So now let's talk about the answer room. What's that all about?
The answer room. Yes. So the answer room is my hypnosis audio that to be completely transparent, it's a gift that I set up for people. And I surveyed people who pay attention to me, who pick up what I'm putting down. I surveyed them and said, what would be the most precious gift I could give you? And what they said is a way to unlock internal answers when we feel stuck, when it's like you're at a crossroads and you're trying to decide, should I do this or should I do this? And it might even be, should I do this or this or this or this? And there's so many different options and you're just not sure where to go. And that can often cause stagnation, frustration, discouragement. A person might just stay where they are because they don't know what to do next. And so the answer room is a hypnosis audio that goes in and helps a person unlock or tap into the part of them that knows the things they don't know they know. And if I had heard someone say that to me a decade ago, I probably would have rolled my eyes and thought, yeah, right, I don't know. But there is a part of you that knows. And the answer room unlocks that part of you, because I can look at your situation and be like, oh, you should do this. I know what you should do. But my highest self doesn't necessarily have the answer for your highest self. So it goes in and unlocks the answer for your highest self. And the reason I made the audio is because for a person to get it, they have to put in their email address. All they have to do is write their first name and their email address, and then it is magically transported to their inbox. And now I magically have your email address, and I send out a Sunday cheat sheet every week that just loves on people and nourishes them and gives them extra tools for thriving in this life.
Nice. So now speaking of the answer room, I imagine you have your own answer room. And if you're in your answer room, what's going to be the title to that new course that you're coming out with? And
that you are asking me this, you have really good timing, Jason. So I'm actually creating the course literally as we speak. I paused it to come to this podcast, and the newest course, and I asked the people who pay attention to me what they would like it to be called, is called the Transformation Trance Formula. And it's a 4-step formula that ensures that a person gets the transformation they seek when they come in to see you, no matter what protocol you use. And I know that's a really bold claim. And between you and me and anybody who might be eavesdropping on the conversation, the formula is based on the meta pattern of change. Mike Mandel teaches it as ADAC. And it's based on studying Milton Erickson, studying people who have received transformation in any area that a person might come to see a hypnotherapist for, and discovering what the underlying mechanism is. And so there's a 4-part formula that a person can follow in every hypnosis session. They can use just about any protocol they want. They can put in as much creativity as they want, but if they follow these 4 steps, it ensures that they unlock the highest self of the person who is in their hypnosis chair in a way that activates the transformation that that person wants. And the biggest reason I wanted to create this training, because Mike Mandel is already teaching it as ADAC, Melissa Tiers, John Overdurf, I believe James Clear, all teach it as the meta pattern. So it's not something that I made up, but it's something that I have been able to, I've come up with some creative ways to help people have aha moments about it. Because one of my pet peeves, and I mean this in the most loving way, because I'm a person who's wanted to do this in the past, is when I go into a hypnosis forum on Facebook and somebody is saying, I've been a hypnotherapist for 7 years, but I've never seen a client who's coming in for this weird specific thing. And this is the problem, and this is where they're struggling. And I've never even heard of this diagnosis before. And I'm wondering, how do I help them? And there's a part of me that just like, I just wish that I could unveil for that person, here's how you do it. No matter what the question is, this is the answer. And I also see hypnotists, and I used to be one of these hypnotists who would spend days, sometimes weeks, planning for a session because I was so freaked out. It's like, how do I craft the perfect hypnotic suggestion? How do I create the perfect, like, how do I make sure that I help them get the transformation they seek? And when the light bulbs come on for this person, for a hypnotist or a hypnotherapist, depending on what you call yourself, when the light bulb comes on, you start to realize you have a reliable, consistent mechanism for change anytime you want to help a client transform. And it works for ourselves too. We can use it for us. So that's what I'm working on right now. And I'm having a blast, to be honest.
Nice. Well, so now speaking about transformation, let's talk about your transformations. And it doesn't necessarily have to be just hypnotic, but
Okay.
who are your mentors? And who are those people who have really made you who you are?
Okay. Wow, that's a beautiful question. My first mentor is Mike Mandel. He's the first person that I ever listened to talk about hypnosis. And his business partner, Chris Thompson, is also a dear friend. Melissa Tears, I just love the way she teaches. She has a really unique way of teaching. She's not a super warm, compassionate person. I think she is a super compassionate person. But she has a way of teaching that make the light bulbs come on for me in a really unique and beautiful way. There's so many people. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Michael Watson is someone who taught me core transformation, which is Connie Ray Andreas's protocol. And I got to fly out and meet and spend a few days with him and his students for that training in a way that it had a lasting impact on me. But the first time I went to HypnoThoughts, it was just as I had quit my job as a hairstylist to become a hypnotist. So I was brand new to the industry. And the first time I walked into HypnoThoughts, it's almost like the feeling of love was palpable. Like I could feel the love in that place. And so it would be hard for me to single out just a few people because I feel like every hypnotist, even the two of you just being here in this Zoom room with you, you can feel that it's like, to me, magic sums up the word because there's a part of us that we have tools, we have ways of helping people that actually work. And not many people can say that.
And speaking of magic, Scott, come on, you got a question for us. I've been talking the show.
Hello, Lori. It says you talk about helping, you like group therapy or giving group hypnosis, but there's a side that most people don't know that you like to help people increase their business to 6 figures.
Oh, yes, yes. So that's something that happened kind of by accident. When I teach people how to expand their business to 6 figures, the first thing I teach them is the importance of really knowing who you're speaking to, having a clear idea of who it is that is picking up what you're putting down. And I found my person that pays attention to me by accident. And what happened is I went to the first HypnoThoughts. I thought, these are my people. These people feel safe. These people, it's like they're good for introverts because we talk about deep stuff. And so I had been invisible on social media prior to that. Like I didn't interact on Facebook. I was invisible. And I realized, okay, if I'm going to put myself out there, I'm going to have to start interacting with people on social media. At least that's the story I told myself. There's other ways to do it, but that's how I did it. And so I just started friending all the hypnotists. If I saw someone who was had a mutual friend that was a hypnotist and they were a hypnotist too, I just started friending them. And I did it as a way to get out of my comfort zone because that was really uncomfortable for me. And so now on Facebook, almost everyone that I'm friends with on Facebook is also a hypnotherapist. So when I started getting bold and I actually took a training, and I'm happy to go into detail about any of this that you would like. I took a training that helped me understand how to post on Facebook in a way that makes people actually pay attention to you and how to post on Facebook in a way that actually starts to build up your business. So when I started posting on Facebook, which coincidentally, what I remember is that it started out as a group hypnosis session. Like, who wants to play? Who wants to play and see how well this works? Everybody who responded to me was a hypnotist. And I'm like, no. Like they're gonna realize that I'm a fraud. They're gonna realize that I don't know what I'm doing. They're gonna realize that I'm the only reason I'm making myself do this is because I am broke and I'm not doing hair anymore. And that's the story that so many hypnotists tell themselves after they train, is that like I'm not good enough, which is BS. But that's what I believed. And so as I started doing these sessions and started interacting with people, I realized that so many of these hypnotherapists, like the tools I was using caused my business to start to thrive. And I moved into a 6-figure business from absolutely nothing. And so I started just kind of putting my feelers out and saying, hey, would you like me to show you how to build up your hypnosis business? And people just lined up to sign up, and the rest is history. So the biggest way that I do that on an ongoing basis is through what I call the HIC, which is the Hammond Inner Circle Mastermind. And it's a place where people can pay a monthly rate and attend 2 meetings per month and get help and interaction inside the Facebook group to move their business into a place where it's thriving. And I really enjoy it. I never in a million years would have imagined that that's what I would do.
So that's it. What do you do to get to that point where you can have that, peace, where you can get in touch with yourself and get connected? How do you do this? And what's that all about?
Okay, will you articulate a little bit more, dive in a little deeper to what you mean by peace with yourself?
Your connection.
Okay. Oh, Jason, that's a hard question, and it's a good question. A lot of it is a decision. A lot of it is, in a nutshell, the 4-part formula that I teach in the training that I'm putting out. The first step is to feel the suck. It's like to feel that lack of connection, to feel that discouragement, to feel that perhaps depression. And I'm not 100% depression free. Sometimes my body still tries to go down that old neural pathway of depression, but I know how to snap right out of it instead of like meld into it for weeks. So if a person wants to experience connection with themselves, what they first need to do is really acknowledge a sensation of disconnection, acknowledge the frustration, acknowledge whatever it is that is keeping them feeling disconnected. So for me, it might be historically in the past, it might have been a sensation of depression, which really is like a deep, deep discouragement. It's a story that life is meaningless. I suck. Nothing I do is okay. I'm not okay. Like, it's just deep discouragement. And so when a person, is it all right if I just kind of guide people through it real quick? Because that's the quickest, easiest way to explain
Do
it.
what you do. We're on your highway.
Okay, so this is the meta pattern in a nutshell. It's to feel the feeling you're feeling that you don't like. And this is what you would have a client do in a session. If a client came in because they were a smoker, you would have them feel the craving. And there's tricks you can do to help them. You want them to be craving a cigarette right now. So what I invite you to do if you're listening right now is to think about a problem in your life that's keeping you stuck, and allow yourself to think about the last time that problem was a problem. So for me, if it was depression from the past, it might be when I was a hairstylist and I would be in the break room after doing a client's hair and thinking, I don't know how I'm going to stand up to do my next client. And so I would go and I would be in that break room. And I invite you to be in the place where that problem was a problem. See what you see when you're here. Hear what you hear. Feel what you feel. And just let yourself feel that feeling that you're ready to get rid of today. And I'm curious, and here's a place where us analytical people like to stop playing along. But if you will play along and even just make up or pretend to know the answer, you're in for a treat. So Imagine that you could just scan your awareness down your body from the top to the bottom and just notice where you feel that feeling the most. So for me, sometimes like depression will feel almost like it's in the stomach area. Sometimes it might feel like it's in the throat. It can be anywhere. It doesn't matter. But I want you to go in and find the feeling in the body. And then imagine that you could shrink your awareness down really tiny and just go inside that feeling and just check it out from the inside out. And I want you to do this with an attitude of curiosity. I want you to do this with an attitude of, oh, there you are, depression. I see you. You're not trying to resist it. You're not trying to ignore it. You're not trying to make it go away. You're not giving it the finger. You're just curiously looking at it and saying, oh, there you are. And here's a really cool thing. This is what I love about hypnosis, is it's not witchcraft, it is neuroscience. And there's a neuroscience principle from Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor that has proven that an emotion only lasts in the body for 90 seconds. If a person has been experiencing problems on an ongoing basis, it's because they're either resisting it, which is keeping it in place, or it's recycling it, they're rethinking the thought that caused it, they're giving it the finger and trying to push it away, and it's keeping it stuck. But when you just go in and you acknowledge it and you just look at it and you say, oh, hi there, feeling. I see you, anxiety. I see you, depression. I see you, cigarette craving. Whatever it is, within 90 seconds, it will begin to shift and soften and transform and move in a beautiful way that lets you then, that's step 2 of the process that I teach, is helping a person step out of the emotion. So first you must activate it by stepping in, and then you step out of the emotion. And that happens when you just sit with it. It happens by itself. And then the next step is to ask yourself an empowering question. Remember, I talked earlier about how the quality of our questions determines the quality of our lives. So I double dare you to ask yourself, if this problem was a thing of the past, and if you're listening, you didn't see what I just did. I held out my empty hands like I'm holding the problem, and I said was a thing of the past, and I whooshed it away into the past, except my camera's reversed, so I probably whooshed it into the future. Whooshed it into the past. What amazing thing, and here I'm holding empty hands out in front of me again, what amazing thing would be there in its place? Or who would I be as a person if I wasn't that person anymore? And simply asking yourself that question causes your highest self to activate in a way that allows you to start thinking about possibilities that you couldn't think of when you were trying to make the problem go away. Because now we're not trying to make the problem go away anymore. We're just letting ourselves think about the possibilities. If you're a hypnotist and you ask your client this question and they're like, I don't know. You can look at them and you can see that they're doing something with their body language that is keeping them stuck in the problem. It's recycling that 90-second feeling. So what I teach as the fastest hypnosis protocol in the entire world is called the 3 Bs. It's body language, breathing, and belief, which is just the B word that means what you're thinking. And if a person can't answer that question, like when that problem is a thing of the past, what will be there in its place, you can direct them. And if you're listening right now, you can do this to imagine that a magic string is pulling them up from the top of the head. And that's allowing the entire body to align. So you're not bringing your shoulders up to make yourself sit up straight. You're allowing your shoulders to relax down and back. The chest comes up a little bit. Ladies, even if that's uncomfortable or weird, let your chest come up a little bit. Let your chin come up a little bit. Let everything relax as if it's hanging like a marionette on a string from the top of your head, and just allowing the body to align and relax. That's the body language that goes with being able to answer this empowering question. Now I double dare you to paste a big fat smile on your face, to look up, and you can even stretch your arms out like you're giving life a hug. I challenge you to do this with your body language and try to feel sad, try to feel discouraged, try to feel that thing you were feeling before. This is the fastest way to help a person step out of whatever they're experiencing. So that's just the first B, that's body language. The next one is breathing. And a simple way to think about breathing is anxiety is an over inhalation problem and depression is an over exhalation problem. So if a person puts just if you're not sure, if you just put a really strong emphasis on inhaling all the way down to the waistline, like you're making the waist move as you breathe in, and then letting that out with a long, slow exhale. What it does is it creates an unhospitable environment for those thoughts that were keeping you stuck in the problem. And so I encourage people to change the first two B's first. First, change your body language, then change your breathing, and then go in and change your belief, which is just what you're saying to yourself. If you've ever tried affirmations and they didn't work for you, it probably means you were trying to change the self-talk without changing the first two B's first. And something that might be surprising is that the unconscious mind, the highest self part of us, the part of us that thinks automatic thoughts that we don't even realize we're thinking, is almost like a childlike part of us. And it does not have flowery affirmations that have these big words and sound really fancy. It's usually something so simple. And it's often as simple as, I can do this, or I'm okay, or I can be happy. It's usually something really simple. So if you change the first two B's and then ask yourself, when I feel this, what do I know about that situation? All of a sudden you get the third B. And that's your most powerful hypnosis session in the world. Okay, I'm almost done, you guys. So the first three steps is feel the problem, turn off the problem, feel the solution by asking the empowered question. And the fourth step is to actually install the change. And this, I'm just going to be totally honest and say this to me feels like prayer. And if a person is really into trancey hypnosis, because hypnosis can definitely happen without a formal trance, this is the best place to put that trance. But you're essentially talking to that person's highest self. And that's why it feels like prayer, because it's like you're just saying, hey, highest self, you see this person's intention to go from the problem to the desired state to the solution. Will you just go into the past and just start to re-imprint the past on this person in a way that lets them change the energy signature of that situation that used to cause a problem? So for a smoker, it might be like, will you just go into the past and 3 o'clock break time comes and now they feel this instead. Just start to install this new way of showing up in the world in all the places in the past where the problem used to be a problem. The person who's listening, their conscious mind might not have any idea that anything is happening. You're just speaking to their automatic self. And then you say, okay, now will you go into the future and go into all the times when the problem might have been a problem, but now install this way of showing up instead. And it can be really cool to have them go a year into the future, 5 years into the future. I will often say, and now I want you to go to the end of your long, healthy life. You're an old lady or man, and you're looking at that version of you, and he or she is just so happy. Their eyes are lit up because they realize this is the moment when the change took place. And just ask them if they have any words of wisdom for you or any words of insight. And it's really cool, the things that their highest self will tell them that I never would have thought of. I don't give my clients a lot of suggestions. I let them come up with the suggestions in the session. And you just essentially say, okay, now I'm going to count from 1 to 5 or whatever it is. When I open my eyes, this new way of showing up in the world is going to be fully installed in all the places where you need it the most. And then you count them out. And thank you for listening to my monologue, because that was essentially a mini hypnosis in a nutshell presentation for anyone who might be interested. And I am done.
Awesome.
Hey, Lori, what are you doing in Hypnothoughts?
Thank you for asking. I am actually, so I'm doing two things.
the first thing is I didn't go down this rabbit trail, but like I mentioned, the reason I became a hypnotist was to help with weight loss. And I got all these tools, they worked so well. And then I had brain surgery about a year and a half ago, and I threw all my tools out the window. I let myself hypnotize myself to feel discouraged and tell myself that my life was over. And I started eating everything in sight. And so this year at HypnoThoughts, one of my 1 hour event at the training itself, at the event itself, is hypnosis for weight management. And I'm going to be sharing with everyone the things that I've learned, the simple, effective aha moments that have allowed me to take the weight off. I still have a few pounds left. I don't know where I'll be when I get to HypnoThoughts, but I'm going to love myself no matter what. But I'm going to share that. And then I'm doing a 2-day post-conference event where I am teaching people. It's called Captivating Courses. And I'm teaching people how to create online courses because I mentioned earlier, I asked the question, how can I make an excellent living without trading time for money? So Captivating Courses is a way to reach a lot of people with your message, but not have to do one-on-one clients in order to make a good living. And teaching a person how to make a captivating course is only part of one little piece of the puzzle, because if you build it, they will come is a lie unless you're in Field of Dreams. So I teach people how to actually reach people and how to get people into their courses and how to get people to purchase their courses so that they can make an excellent living, changing lives in this industry. And that is what I'm doing at HypnoThoughts.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. So now the big question is, how do our viewers get a hold of you?
Okay, so the best way to get a hold of me, my website is trancypants.com, trancypants.com. You can tell that my antidote to depression is not taking things too seriously. And then my email address is Lori, Lori, at trancypants.com. So if you want my answer room hypnosis audio for free, send me an email. That's probably the quickest way, is to send me an email. I would imagine that Scott and Jason will put the link wherever you're watching this video, if it works. And but I'll send that to you if you're interested in getting like a really comprehensive, in-depth training of the thing that I just gave you an overview of, why hypnosis works when it works and how to make it reliably work. For every freaking client. I'm telling you, it works for every situation if the client is truly ready to change. Just email me and I will send you a link to where you can access that training.
Beautiful. Scott, you got another question for us?
Hey, Lori, thank you so much for coming out and being here with us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm very grateful to be here, and I hope I didn't run away with the microphone too much in monologue, but
No, Lori,
you asked some great questions, and that was fun.
Lori, you were wonderful. But before we go, we have one more question for you.
Okay.
What's those words of wisdom that you're going to give our viewers?
Okay. If I tap into my highest self and I ask what the words of wisdom for you are, it would be that you would know, I mean, really know that you are braver than you realize. You are more ready to do that thing you want to do than you realize. And you are more well equipped than you realize. And the best way to unlock that is to get started now before you feel ready. If you wait to feel ready, you're never going to do it. The readiness comes after the action.
Thank you, Lori. Thank you for allowing us to travel down your magical psyche highway. We certainly enjoyed the ride. And for our viewers out there, thanks for coming and thanks for watching. We hope you like this. If you like us, give us a thumbs up. If you think we're assholes, just give us the thumbs down. We don't care. We're glad you're here. We hope you come back next week. Please share this with your friends. Follow us. And thanks for traveling down the magical psyche highway.
Wow, what a trip. Thanks for taking that journey with us today. Please like us, share us, and enlighten us with your views of the topics we drove into today. We appreciate you and love reading your comments. Thanks again, and we hope to see you back on the bus next week. That's right.